Dan Foss is not here yet, but he will be, and he better be because he wrote a book about the Giants. Oh, and all the books are for sale back in the back of the room with Green Apple Books. Kevin Hunsinger, please go over there and buy books during intermission, and you can have the guys sign them afterwards. And once the event is over, there is some sort of Bob Seger tribute band, I think, playing here later. Or something, there's something Bob Seger related. So you can hang out here, or you can go and hang out in the bar with the rest of the increasingly drunk authors for tonight. So let's just move right along. Our first author is he had a memoir that came out this year called Kick the Balls. And he is co-author with David Henry Sterry of another book that came out this year called The Glorious World Cup. Please welcome one of the founding dudes of Litquake. Starting events here every year. Please welcome Alan Black.
Thank you very much, Jack. This is a little story about the emotional devastation that can take place when you support a soccer team that play in the most darkest regions of the sport. They are the worst team in Scotland right now. And I am their only supporter in the United States. And as a child, I would go down to see them playing at a stadium called Shawfield, which was like going to a salt mine underneath the earth in Siberia. It had a huge effect on my outlook in life and gave me very, very limited expectations. So this is about the stadium where Clyde Football Club played in Glasgow, my hometown in Scotland. Clyde Football Club played at Shawfield. They were a minor league team, perennially rubbish. But I supported Clyde, and I still do. The atmosphere in Shawfield was like the atmosphere on Pluto. Exposure was a real and constant worry for the fans. Frostbite was not unheard of. The sun never shined. Like tiny flowers at the top of the Rocky Mountains, the weeds and the terracing steps at Shawfield had developed immunity to sub-zero weather conditions and annihilation. Holes had appeared in the corrugated roof, and echoes mastered the void. At every game, I stood isolated in a stadium built for 25,000 people. The nearest fan to me was 100 yards to my right or my left. The older boosters would tell me about matches in the 1950s when the place was alight with noise, packed with bodies. But by the time I was a ticket buyer in the 1970s, there was no fear of being stomped to death. No multitudes roaring for the team. By then, 300 paying patrons was considered a big crowd. It was fandom at the coalface of utter decay. Being a Clyde fan was like being part of a dissident minority, banished to a sporting Siberia. Desperate to create an exciting aura, an amateur hobbyist who had an aptitude for sound experimentation, turned up at the stadium on game day, determined to deliver a big game atmosphere to the players and the Clyde fans. He had a 70s boombox attached to a megaphone, and on the cassette inside the device was a recording of crowd cheers sampled from television coverage of popular big crowd soccer games. He pressed play. The agonising nails down a blackboard feedback from the megaphone snapped the tips off the icicles hanging from the corrugated roof. The spinal cords of the players froze. Folks covered their ears, and the two policemen on duty moved in quickly and removed the sonic hooligan device. Haunting echoes faded and returned the Clyde experience to a barren sea of tranquility. And then there was death. To keep the few fans warm and fed at Shawfield, the club operated near the toilets a food hatch where old men in flower aprons sold two nourishing products that contributed to Glasgow males having an average lifespan of 58.7 years. The Scotch meat pie and the cup of hot Bovril. A cup of Bovril beef stock resembled something brown and smelled like something brown. It was consumed in large volumes, helping to wash the Scotch meat pie into the intestinal maze and around any rapidly growing bowel obstacles. This horrendous double act of dietary danger knew no greater performer. As powerful as any pharmaceutical laxative, the antiquated plumbing system at Shawfield was stretched to the limits, disintegrating with a vile ugliness to which the dryness of words could in no way do justice. Fortunately for the stadium plumbing, the pipes had only to run a short distance to Glasgow's River Clyde, the inspiration for our club name. Back then, the great shipbuilding river was dark, rusted water filled with iron filings, amputated ship parts, and meat pie and Bovril deposits sailing down the river on a Saturday afternoon. Some people went fishing in the Clyde, hoping to hook cast-off shoes or wallets from those who jumped in. The suicides unable to weather the Glasgow diet any longer. Mad cow disease had not been invented back then, but it was soon to be on the Scottish menu. As the catatonic started to pile up in the 1980s and 1990s, scientists discovered that products like the Scotch meat pie, a delicacy made from chopped up low-grade cow that had been fed the spinal cords and brains of their fellows, was a likely source of contamination. Fortunately, I never ate the pies. I stood well away from the clutch of fans that hovered near the hatch. Thank you.
Alan Black.